800 to 850. Like, potentially might not make any money. Correct. That's what it's starting to look like. Honestly, of all the houses ever flipped, I would say this is the top 3 of houses that I don't think are going to sell for yes. I agree.
Okay. Audrey, shalom, shalom. Happy Wednesday, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday. Pulling this stuff together. I'm running a few minutes behind. Okay. Happy Wednesday, beautiful people. It is June 29th, 2022, day 145 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1163. Today we're picking back up in Oahspe on page 243 in the book of Divinity. All right, beautiful people, so let's get started. If you guys were able to take the Sabbath off yesterday, I hope you rested well. If not, I hope you had a peaceful day and were still able to get some kind of rest in throughout your day. Lavon, blessings, blessings. Father, we thank you for another day. Mom, shalom, shalom. We here on our post, ready to get started, still searching for truth, analyzing it, understanding it, applying it to our life, that it may become wisdom. All right, y'all. Page 243. Anybody get to read ahead? Yay, nay? I posted somebody actually read it. A young lady read it, and she has a pretty clear reading, and she just read right straight through without any kind of stories and stuff that I do try to explain anything. But sometimes people just let me give it to me like an audible so I can just get it in and let me just, so I posted that there for you guys if you want to just listen straight through. And if you actually go listen to hers, I think you can listen to the whole book in about a couple hours. I've listened to it like twice already, all the way through, so. Francis, shalom. All right, beautiful people. I did not put my marker in the right place, did I? Oh, I did. I looked at the wrong marker. Okay, chapter 5, 243. Yep. Okay. So when we were here Monday, we learned about the Ashars, what they do, the Asaphs, what they do, colors and sounds, and we got all the way up to the 43rd deviant law, right? We learned about the inner apprentice and the craftsman, what happens with children when they pass, who they are attached to, depending on when they pass. If they died before the 9 months was completed in the mother's womb, there was a process that happened to where the spirit of the child went back to the mother to complete the 9 months, because they gained, whether in spirit or in their flesh, they gained sustenance from their mother up until a certain point, and being in the womb requires that. Also, after coming out of the womb for a period of time, if the mother is not available or something has happened with her to where she's being overrunning her life by druges or familiars, they will not fetal that child to the mother, but they will go searching for the father. And if the father is in let's just say a decent state with some kind of light in him, they will fetal the child to its father. If not the father, if father wasn't in the right state of mind, place in life, they look for the next family members, like brothers or sisters. And when that doesn't happen, they not do it with the husband. If she have more than children, she shall. No, that's not it. Or it's near kin. Let's see. But if it be too young, then the Asaphs with a sufficient guard shall take it back to its mortal mother or its mortal father or its brother or sisters or other near kin, or to whomsoever the Asaphs find most advisable. Yep, so that was really good. That was real good for y'all to read over quite a few times and just like really take it all in, get all these things down. It'll really help you understand some things that happen on this side that we tend to only just see with our natural eyes. It kind of helps us see what's happening in the background. Okay, chapter 5. We're going to get in what happens to, I put non-believers, my note or whatever, and the rise. Hold on, y'all. For the box. Okay. All right. Business calls. All right, y'all. So let's get started. Chapter 5, page 243. God propounded, if a man die and be not a Zarathustrian, what then? All the members spake, and then Div decreed, inasmuch as he accepted not the Zarathustrian law whilst mortal, he is unsuited to the highest exalted places of the light. For all official preference shall be to the Zarathustrian. This was the 44th deviant law. Div decreed, of the same spirit, who not being a Zarathustrian, his education shall not run to the Lord head, nor to the Lord God. He shall not be a column in the Father's building, nor of the arch stones of great strength, but he shall stand as a plain brick in the wall. Div said, I am not created God to merely serve my time and there an end. I am to look far ahead as to who shall be lords and gods over the earth and atmosphere. So all that they're doing, Uncle JB, shalom, all that they're doing is not just for like here and now. It has to do with where you are going and what you will be in future time, many, many years ahead. I'm going to read this again. Verse 3. Div decreed of the same. Let me just start over. Verse 1. God propounded, if a man die and be not a Zarathustrian, what then? All the members spake, and then said, Div decreed, inasmuch as he accepted not the Zarathustrian law whilst mortal, while he was still alive in his flesh, inasmuch as he accepted not the Zarathustrian law whilst mortal, he is unsuited to the highest exalted places of delight. For all official preference shall be to the Zarathustrian. This was the 44th deviant law. Div decreed, of the same spirit, who not being a Zarathustrian, his education shall not run to the Lord head, nor to the Lord God. His education shall not run to the Lord head, nor to the Godhead. He shall not be a column in the Father's building, nor of the arch stones of great strength, but he shall stand as a plain brick in the wall. Div said, I am not created God to merely serve my time and there an end. I am to look far ahead as to whom shall be lords and gods over the earth and atmosphere. Div propounded, what then shall be the course of a spirit who is not a Zarathustrian? And this was made the 46th deviant law. He shall be delivered to the Asaphs, who shall enter him in the nurseries as an Ezion, where he shall remain 6 years, learning the elementary powers and expressions. Div decreed the 47th deviant law. The same spirit shall then be apprenticed in manufacturing and general labor, where he shall serve 12 years, unless previously instructed in these things whilst mortal. Div decreed the 48th deviant law. He shall now enter school and learn surveying and measuring without instruments, and determining the kind of emanations that rise up from earth, their altitude and density, and he shall learn exploration and enumeration in both corpor and s, the building of piedmazars and otivans, the constructing of aeroships, and all other vessels used in the heavens to carry things from place to place. And he shall serve 30 years in these things. Div decreed the 49th deviant law. He shall now be promoted to restoring, nursing, and caring for the Druhas who are being rescued by the captains, generals, and lords, in which service he shall be for 30 years. In both the 48th and 49th deviant laws, it was afterward decreed, whatsoever service he did in mortal life, in these aspects shall stand to his credit twofold in the spirit. Div decreed, if he now acknowledge and practice faith in the Great Spirit, he shall be promoted to the college of creation and taught to create light and darkness. After this, he shall be taught to sargus flowers and trees and clothes, and to take elementary lessons in music and expression, in which branches he shall serve 50 years. And then he shall be entitled to examination. And if he can withstand the third grade of light, he shall be ranked bridegroom of Oahspe. This was the 50th deviant law, the 51st thus provided. And before we read the 51st, let's go back a few words. And after bridegroom of Oahspe, O-M, it has reference letter B, Oahspe. Oahspe is female for Jehovah. Bridegrooms marry Oahspe. Brides marry Jehovah. I'll read that again. Oahspe is female for Jehovah. Bridegrooms marry Oahspe. Brides marry Jehovah. And I read this again. And then when he shall be entitled to examination, and then he shall be entitled to examination, and if he can withstand the third grade of light, he shall be ranked bridegroom of Oahspe, which is another word for Jehovah, but it's female for Jehovah, as we found out. This was the 50th deviant law. The 51st thus provided. Pay attention to this, y'all. If he doth not yet comprehend faith in the all person, he shall be granted freedom to all the places where he hath served, and he shall be emancipated from all lords and gods, and from all labor and education, and honorably discharged to pursue whatsoever he desireth in any place in heaven or earth. Uncle Nathaniel, peaceful greetings. Listen, let me read verse 10 again. Listen. If he doth not yet comprehend faith in the all person, he shall be granted freedom to all the places where he hath served, and he shall be emancipated from all lords and gods, and from all labor and education, and honorably discharged to pursue whatsoever he desireth in any place in heaven or earth. Nor shall the lords nor gods take more notice of him than due respect and honor. Now listen. Verse 11. Whereupon Div, son of all light, spake, saying, this also shall be part and parcel of the deviant law, which is to say, of the latter class, those who, it's talking about the latter class, those who don't comprehend the Great Spirit or begin to walk in Yah's ways, Jehovah's ways and laws, and being on the right side of light. Here's what happens. Auntie, shalom, shalom, listen. Whereupon Div, son of all light, spake, saying, this also shall be part and parcel of the deviant law, which is to say, of the latter class, rise the false gods and false lords, that oft set up kingdoms of their own in atmosphere. They shall not rise above the second resurrection. Last verse for chapter 5, verse 12. The voice of Jehovah came to God, saying, without the disbeliever spirits, mortals could not find courage to smite serpents. Without false gods and false lords, the lowest Druhas would never be put to work. They who cannot be risen by persuasion may be aroused by less scrupulous masters who make slaves of them, right? So everybody has their place, just like our body, different things in our body. On a day-to-day basis, those most needful things to get the body working and continue operating must be covered and hidden, right? Like our private parts, they're hidden always. But they, aside from the brain and the heart, I guess in all the organs going along the spine, it's a part of it. You need those to release toxins from the body. Otherwise, you would die. If everything else is working good, but the waste release portion of your body is not, you toxify your entire body and all the good working organs, and you die anyway. Everything dies, right? So, according to this, false lords and false gods are needed. Not that you should find yourself on that side of light, but they are needed, right? For those who not getting in order and not working. And then all of them will be delivered. I'll read that again. Verse 11 and 12. Whereupon Div, son of all light, spake, saying, this also shall be part and parcel of the deviant law, which is to say, of the latter class rise the false gods and false lords that oft set up kingdoms of their own in atmosphere. They shall not rise above the second resurrection. The voice of Jehovah came to God, saying, without the disbeliever in spirits, mortals could not find courage to smite serpents. Without false gods and false lords, the lowest Druhas would never be put to work. They who cannot be risen by persuasion may be aroused by less scrupulous masters who make slaves of them. Chapter 6. In the 12th moon of the Diva, the voice of Jehovah came to Div, saying, that my lords and my gods may not err. Thou shalt promulgate the foundation of the deviant law. God perceived, and in the name of Div he decreed, hear me, O gods and lords. This is the foundation of deviant law, the decrees of gods and his Lord gods, his gods and his lords, not singly, but by all members, and ratified by the council of Diva, under Div, son of all light. That is to say, a kingdom of heaven riseth or falleth by deviant law. A kingdom or nation on earth riseth or falleth by deviant law. The virtuous are rewarded and exalted by deviant law. The wicked are cast into trials by deviant law. Let me read that again. Alicia, ya shalom. Listen. Hear me, O gods and lords. This is the foundation of the deviant law. The decrees of God and his lords, his Lord gods, and his lords, not singly, but by all members, and ratified by the council of Diva under Div, son of all light. That is to say, a kingdom in heaven riseth or falleth by deviant law. A kingdom or nation on earth riseth or falleth by deviant law. The virtuous are rewarded and exalted by deviant law. The wicked are cast into trials by deviant law. But this is not deviant law. Man to be created and to live a time on earth, then die and enter heaven. These are done by the ever-presence, the all-light, the creator, not by the diva. This is the deviant law, to wit, to assist man out of darkness into light, to give security to the helpless, to raise the souls of men to everlasting light, to minister unto the needy, to deliver them that are in pain, to teach man to desist laboring for himself, and to teach him to labor for others. I'll read this again. So all those rightly ruling in the chain of command of light, this is what they're here for, right? All the ones in the chain from God down to his Lord gods and lords, all the way down. Ashars, Asaphs, Lewis, everybody, right? Marshals, everybody we done learned about so far, all of them. This is the deviant law, to wit, to assist man out of darkness into light, to give security to the helpless, to raise the souls of men to everlasting light, to minister unto the needy, to deliver them that are in pain, to teach man to desist laboring for himself, to teach him to labor for others. But this is not deviant law. For seed to grow, for a tree to grow, for a spider to weave its web, these are done by the ever-living presence, the all-master creator. This is deviant law, to wit, to regulate the affairs of angels and mortals for their ultimate resurrection, to lay the foundation for harmony in community, to gather together the inharmonious and put them in tune. But this is not the deviant law, to provide the earth with life or to hold it in its place, to build the place of the higher or lower heavens, to provide corpore or to provide s. These things are done by the ever personal presence, the Creator, shaped and molded by his hand through the chiefs of the higher heavens. And after chiefs of higher heavens, heavens has reference letter C. And on page 262, reference letter C says, the implication is clear that the big tasks of formation and dissolution, providing paths for galaxies and so on, are actually handled by Etherians, though they are only tools. Jehovah provides the force. Verse 9. This is deviant law, to bring together in marriage wisely for the child's sake, for the joy of all. That's good. Because I had a dream last night about something. It was more a personal one. So I won't share that with y'all. Verse 9. This is deviant law, to bring together in marriage wisely for the child's sake and for the joy of all. This is not deviant law, to give desire to marriage or desire from marriage. These things, sorry, let me start over. Verse 10. But this is not deviant law, to give desire to marriage or desire from marriage. These are from the all-person, the master of light. The master light. And after desire from marriage has reference number 4, which is at the bottom of the page. Remember, the numbers are at the bottom. The letters are at the end of the chapter. It says, or desire from marriage. And reference 4 says desire for marriage. Okay. To give desire to marriage or desire for marriage. These are from the all-person, the master light. Verse 11. This chapter is pretty much separating what the chain of command is to do and the powers alone that Yah takes care of himself, or Jehovah, the Great Spirit. This is what we do. This is what the Creator does. This is our jobs. This right here, it belongs to the Creator, right? He sets it in motion. He calls us to carry it out, right? All right. Verse 10. But this is not deviant law. I'm reading it again. Okay. But this is, I might as well just read 9 again. This is deviant law, to bring together in marriage wisely for the child's sake and for the joy of all. But this is not deviant law, to give desire to marriage or desire from marriage. These are from the all-person, the master light. This is deviant law, when a man walketh along, to take him by the hand and to bend him to the right or left. But this is not deviant law, for the man to go forth. This he does by the ever-presence, Jehovah, the Oahspe. I like that. I'm going to read 11 again. Listen. This is deviant law, when a man walketh along, to take him by the hand and bend him to the right or to the left. But this is not deviant law, for the man to go forth. This he doeth by the ever-presence, Jehovah, the Oahspe. So Yah has to get him moving. We're here to help guide him on which path to take. You need to go left or right, right? Because we're placed in different portions of life to help those that come along. You should go this way. Down here is this. Down here, not so wise to go, right? But consider, But this, verse 12, but this is not deviant law, for man to go forth. This he doeth by the ever-presence, Jehovah, the Oahspe. The carpenter buildeth the house, but he built not the logs nor the stone. The diva buildeth kingdoms in heaven and kingdoms on earth, and shapeth them for usefulness and beauty. And when they are old and out of sorts, the diva abandoneth them, and they fall to pieces. Nevertheless, Oahspe provided and provideth the wherewithal for the whole. Div decreed, this also shall ye promulgate in heaven and earth, lest angels and mortals worship Div and Diva. For though the Diva appointed mortal kings, yet mortals shall not worship Div. And in parentheses, divinity. Mortals shall not worship divinity. I told y'all, like, as we was going through, I told y'all we had this worship thing all chopped and screwed. We ain't supposed to be doing worship like we be doing for real. We supposed to be in school learning. It should be like that relationship give and take like you have with your parents, right? Although it may seem that small children worship their parents, but not in the way we go overboard doing some stuff. They just be like, I love you so much, mommy. I love you, daddy. You know, that's how they do it. But as they grow, they don't do that so much. They may still, but they don't go overboard like they do when they're children. But that's needed when they're children, right? So if we see some people in that state, either they're refusing to go or they're truly newborns and they need it for a little while. Last verse again for chapter 6. Div decreed, this also shall ye promulgate in heaven and earth, lest angels and mortals worship Div and Diva. For the Diva appoint mortal kings, yet mortals shall not worship Div, divinity. Chapter 7. On page 244 of the Oahspe, the book of Divinity. In the 6th Div decreed, the Divian law shall be the higher law, and ye shall give to mortals a law copied after it, and the mortal law shall be called the lower law. One of the members of the Diva said, if a mortal judge, being in judgment between certain men, by which law shall he judge? On this matter the member spake at great length, and Div decreed, he cannot discern the higher law but dimly. The lower law he can read plainly in a book. He shall therefore judge by the lower, but by the highest interpretation. And then Div, on his own account, said, For the priests of the Zarathustrians who have carried the alms bowl and lived in all things pure, being celibates, serving the Creator, or modest only, going about doing good, they have the higher law, the deviant law within their hearts. They shall judge by it. Nevertheless, trouble cometh not into any of the worlds by those who strive to do aright, but by those who do evade. But by those who evade. I read that again. The whole verse 4. For the priests of the Zarathustrians who have carried the alms bowls and lived in all things pure, being celibate, serving the Creator, or modest only, going about doing good, they have the higher law, the deviant law within their hearts. They shall judge by it. Nevertheless, trouble cometh not into any of the worlds by those who strive to do aright, but by those who evade. The time shall come when the judge shall not interpret according to the higher law. He will strive to hide justice in a corner, using words to conceal his own perversity. It is by such men and such angels that heaven and earth will be blighted in coming time. We living in those days, right? For as through Zarathustra, God's word hath been established on earth, and since words themselves perish and are supplemented by new words, the time shall come when the higher law will fall as a house on sand. For there are no words that are everlasting and that are understood by all men alike. Words themselves are but as husks that surround the corn. Men in darkness quibble on the husk, but discern not the fruit within. Oh, that's good for a highlight. Lord, this chapter 9. Okay. Men in darkness quibble on the husk, but discern not the fruit within. Verse 6. Jehovah spake to Div, saying, Man buildeth a house, and it perisheth. Succeeding generations must also build, otherwise the art of building would perish. Better than the building perish than the art of building. I created all men to labor and learn. I created all men to labor and to learn. What less requireth my gods and angels? Because language melteth away, the language makers, that is, my lords and ashars, have constant employment of delight. Don't they? Hold on, let me read this again. Verse 6. Jehovah spake to Div, saying, Man buildeth a house, and it perisheth. Succeeding generations must also build, otherwise the art of building would perish. Better the building perish than the art of building. I created all men to labor and to learn. What less requireth my gods and angels? Because language melteth away, the language makers, that is, my lords and ashars, have constant employment of delight. Div said, foolish men run after a I forgot to highlight this, but I read this and I wanted to make sure we paid attention to this, especially my Hebrew brethren and sisterin that's caught up on the languages. Jan, Grand Rising, Tiffany. Hey, girl, hey. Okay, listen, get into language. All those talking about the Hebrew is I heard some people say Hebrew is a dead language. It's the holy tongue, what is it? I forget it. The holy tongue, that I forget, it's right on the tip of my tongue how to pronounce it in Hebrew. And then they talking about all the other languages and how they're bastardized and just different things that work and don't like that. Y'all really are. I mean, I was there. I used to do it too till I realized this is there's no need to be doing this, right? Listen to this, what they say about language, y'all. Verse 7. Div said, foolish men run after a language that is dead and moldered away, but the wise seek language to express the spirit of things. The latter is under the deviant law, the former is bound as a druk. I was like, you know what? I'm so glad that it's within me to just let some things go. Right? I ain't arguing over language, and because I still look at it a little bit and study, but I'm not so intent on studying it the way I was and like teaching it to my children. I'm like, you know what? If this can be interpreted appropriately, why waste the time? Because it ain't like they're going back to the language. You know, I know there's some things that are done with the Hebrew language, even like all the like magic books and all that stuff. But I also realize, you know, my language that I have now is just as powerful. If I understand what's really going on, I don't even have to open my mouth and speak a language, right? It can still be done. I'm just saying. I guess that would be like operating on a higher law. Okay, listen, let me just read this, y'all. Listen. Div said, foolish men run after a language that is dead and moldered away, but the wise seek language to express the spirit of things. The latter is under the deviant law. The former is bound as a druk, meaning those that run after languages and all that, they're bound by druks when they do that, right? The former is bound as a druk. And herein shall ye be circumspect, because mortal judges who judge by the lower law are bound in words. Copies of these deviant laws are given to mortals through the lords and ashars, either by inspiration or by words spoken in sargisa, right? So you hear it during your prayer time or whatever, fasting, or they appear to you and show themselves to you and give it to you, right? That still happens today. Some may not have experienced it, but nevertheless, it is true. It does happen. Verse 8, copies of these deviant laws were given to mortals through the lords and ashars, either by inspiration or by words spoken in sargisa. And in Japheth and Shem and Arabinia, Mortal kings decreed mortal laws and revelations based on the Deviant laws and on the Zarathustrian laws. Div propounded, a man and woman in mortal life were as drooks, being filthy and idle, begging from day to day, and yet they had borne to them many children. And these children were alike lazy and worthless, being beggars also. Now, in course of time, the man and woman die, and in time after, the children die also. And none of them are yet entered into the first resurrection in heaven, being beggars still and dwelling around their old haunts. What of them? The Lords all spake on this subject, and after that, Div decreed, such spirits shall be reported by the Ashars to the Lord, and the Lord shall send a captain with a sufficient army to arrest them and bring them away from the earth and enter them into a colony for such purpose. This was called Deviant Act, the first. Act, the second, for 30 days, such Druhas shall be clothed and fed. If by this time they manifest no inclination to labor, but are still lazy, they shall be removed into another region where food can be obtained only by exertion, right? So we should be doing something down here. If you just lazy, if you live all your life being lazy, you can go into the spirit being lazy. They gonna rescue you. You gonna get about a 30 days reprieve, right? But then listen, it's the same exact way, y'all. You see the same process happening when babies are born into the world. For a period of time, when they're born, we provide everything they need. Don't worry about it. I got you. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. I got you, right? We clothe you. We feed you, right? But as they begin to get a little bit older, and there is nothing medically or mentally or physically wrong with them where they can't begin to clothe themselves, because naturally they will begin to want to do things for themselves. If they don't begin to show an inclination to want to do something for themselves, and nothing is wrong with them, they're just being lazy because I don't want to, then we got problems, right? Now we're going to take away, we're going to stop supplying you with food. And now you're going to have to get it on your own. You're going to have to get it how you live. Listen. Verse 11. Let's go back. Let's go all the way back to 9. Div propounded, a man and woman in mortal life were as drooks, being filthy and idle, begging from day to day, and yet they had borne to them many children. So you lazy and bringing a whole lot of kids in the world, not doing that. I'm going to keep my comment. Let me read. I'm supposed to be reading. Div propounded, a man and woman in mortal life were as drooks, being filthy and idle, begging from day to day, and yet they had borne to them many children, and the children were alike lazy and worthless, being beggars also. Now, in course of time, the man and woman die, and in time after, the children die also, and none of them are yet entered into the first resurrection in heaven, being beggars still and dwelling around their old haunts. What of them? The Lords all spake on this subject, and after that Div decreed, such spirits shall be reported by the Ashars to the Lords, and the Lord shall send a captain with a sufficient army to arrest them and bring them away from the earth and enter them into a colony for such purpose. This was called Deviant Act, the first. Act, the second, for 30 days, such Druhas shall be clothed and fed. If by this time they manifest no inclination to labor, but are still lazy, they shall be removed into another region where food can be obtained only by exertion. Remember what we read over here at the end of chapter 5? Last verse. The voice of Jehovah came to God saying, Without the disbeliever in spirits, mortals could not find courage to smite serpents. Without false gods and false lords, the lowest Druids would never be put to work. They who cannot be risen by persuasion may be aroused by less scrupulous masters who make slaves of them. It looked like these particular spirits are going to find themselves. If they don't start showing some initiative by persuasion, okay, baby, it's time to go. You can do this. Come on. This is persuasion. We trying to get you to, trying to enlighten you on what's around you and how you can begin to grow and do this for yourself. If you don't, you might find yourself off somewhere in the kingdom of a false lord and false god, and then they're going to make slaves of you, right? And they're going to make you do it. They're going to put the whip to your back. Well, you didn't want to do it by persuasion. Nobody was on your back. We just said, look, man, just follow our example. We working, whatever, join in if you like it, please. Most will, but some of us like, what? Work. Let me tell you something. My husband, he's grown out of this 1,000, 2,000 times fold, or whatever you want to say, right? Back in high school, when we were dating or whatever, he was a big basketball star. And, sometimes you have athletes. It just depends on where they come from or whatever. If they have to work or if they don't have to work while they're in high school or whatever. And my husband didn't have to work, right? So, but as he began to get older, like, ninth grade? No, 10th grade. 10th grade, he did get a job. But we worked at McDonald's like a little bit. McDonald's? Yeah, it was like, how was I when I worked at McDonald's? I was 16 years old. Yeah, so you get that first job or whatever. But as we got up in high school, he started playing basketball. Most of us had like after school jobs that we worked or whatever, or little jobs here and there doing something. But anyway, the whole point of saying all that, the thing my husband used to say, his parents used to tell him, you need to go ahead and go get a job, son. He wouldn't necessarily say anything to them. He said he was going to put in applications, but he really wouldn't. And we were like, you better go get a job. He was like, job? What? My mom and dad pay for everything. Don't curse at me. If somebody told him to go get a job, he would literally take offense to you and say, look, don't curse at me. In his thinking, telling him to go get a job was the equivalent to cursing at him. I'm like, boy, what is wrong with you? How you going to, I don't need to do all that. My parents can do that, right? And then if they don't, I know how to get it. And he got it how he knew how to get it out in the streets, right? So getting a regular job was just like not on his radar at all. Going to work for somebody 9 to 5, which is why he don't work for nobody now. We run a business and stuff. And mind you, just in case y'all, doctors of the street, let me tell you something. I think doctors of the street, although I don't agree with their craft and the medicine that they're pushing, I don't agree with it. But I will say the doctors of the street have some of the brightest minds. I love the men and the women. They have some of the brightest minds. And if somebody could guide them, right, in the direction of light, they can take that wisdom, all that wisdom that they have to run an entire operation on the street is absolutely amazing. And they make money. It's crazy how much money they make because of the smarts and the ability to organize and run like divisions of people, even international operations. They are some of the brightest minds. They could take that same information and use it for the kingdom of light, do something legit. You got all these smarts. You could take that and use it to actually help people instead of pushing a product that's going to kill them and their family and your community, right? But the thing is, they don't want to submit. They have a discipline, but they don't want to submit to a discipline that will... Yeah, they just don't want to submit to a discipline because it's hard on their flesh. It will cause them to have to begin to take accountability for themselves and what they're doing and for the people around them. They don't want to submit to that type of discipline. They want to discipline themselves on their own terms and get money the fast way. The money still will come, but doing it the disciplined way, in order to be You just have to go through the learning curve, and things are slower, and a lot of mistakes are made. You have to do that. You have to be able to know the state of your flocks at all times. And it's almost like being a scientist. You have to know, okay, this didn't work. Why? It ain't working because money ain't coming in. Okay, so what am I doing wrong? They don't want to go through all that. It's just the fast money, but it's the wrong school track to go on. You don't want to do that. If they would submit themselves to instruction, they would be some of the most, I'd say we have way more millionaires and billionaires in the world, but a lot of people, they don't want to do that because it takes too long. And they don't realize the money will come, and it'll come a whole lot faster on the latter end, but you got to get things under control first, right? And you have to be what you want to say? You have to be, okay, selling drugs it was something in here that said, it was almost like word for word what I wanted to say. You pretty much serving yourself. You shouldn't just be serving yourself, and doing it that way, you're really just serving yourself. You should be serving others. That's what it's all about. Okay. So listen, let me go back here. Let me just read this all over again. Okay, verse 9. Kind of got off on my whole little thing, but that's the whole point of me bringing it up about giving that example with my husband is about people, not saying that my husband is lazy or whatever. He just want to do it on the fast side. But when you do it on the fast side, now you need more or less scrupulous masters put over you, and then the law begins to kick in, and they're going to make slaves of you. Right? So a lot of them get in trouble. They go to jail. Now you're a slave to the system, right? Because you didn't want to do what was right. The law is for lawbreakers, right? Listen, I read it again. Verse 9. Div propounded, a man and woman in mortal life, whereas drooks being filthy and idle. Hold on, before I go further. Clearly, my husband, I think I said, I just want to make that clear. That was in his early days. He has nowhere been even close to that side of darkness that he used to be. Y'all see him leaving out of here every day. Although we have our own business every single month. Doing a whole operation that he learned in the street, he's doing it legally now, right? And he's not just doing it selfishly, but now he cares for other families and our employees. And even when we get temp services, even if we don't work a full day, my husband will still give them 8 hours. Why does he do that? Because by him being out in the street, catching a felony when he was 19 years old for drugs and everything, he know how it is to go looking for work and can't get it because of the bad choices you made, and now you got to go to a labor ready place. So most of our manpower aside, we keep our VMI team small and tight, but most of our labor comes from the temp services, and wherever city we work, and we go to that temp service to help the people there. And if we get them in hopes that we can work them all 8 hours, but sometimes they just be hungry, they be ready to work, and they knock the job out in 4 hours. They knock the job out in 4 hours, my husband will still give them 8 hours. It never fails, because he know how it is to be where they're at, and the guys, he had all kind of stories. They confide in him. They don't know him, but they just tend to open up to him. But my husband was there. He spent his time there. That's why they all are attracted to him, and they flock to him, and they share their lives with him. And sometimes he comes telling me this, I'm just like, wow, and he's just like, I never would have thought I'd be here where I'm at, because I know where they're coming from. He said, I was there. We were there, And so he has a heart for guys who's just having a rough go at it in life, right? And if we got work for you, whatever, and he may, if they need something extra, whatever, he may, right? But if you ain't out there, you want to slouch around, you ain't working, you can get off my job site. Don't come back tomorrow. Matter of fact, I'm going to let them know I don't want you back here. Some of them like, oh, man, I'm sorry. What you want me to do? They come out there thinking he playing, and he'll cut them quick. And the other one's like, oh, shoot, he ain't playing out here. But he down to earth, cool as all get out. But if you ain't going to suck my clock. That's what we say. You're not going to be out here and suck my clock. He said, you work, give me 100%. He said, I take care of you. He'll buy them lunch and everything. Because half of them come out there, they don't have money. They get paid daily from labor-ready places or the temp services and everything. My husband know that. He experienced all of that. So if they out there and they're working, they busting their butt for him, he going to make sure they fed. You got money, you got this. He check on everybody. That's why everybody... If you guys knew us personally, the area where we worked at, the temp services that we work with, you can go to them temp services and verify. When we call for manpower, everybody asks, look, whenever VMI calls, we want to be on their projects because we treat our people good and they love working with my husband. They love working with our crew out there. Everybody is down to earth and they just take care of people. We treat you like we care about you because we really do. We know what it is to be where you are, right? Because there was a time we couldn't pay our rent. I had got out the military and everything, and we was living on my GI Bill, which was supposed to have been for school, but we had to have that. And he was going to labor ready. I'm telling you, this is good. I said all that just to give you some kind of story today, with knowing exactly what this is, being idle and the things that come from being there. If you don't put towards any kind of effort to learn and better yourself, you're going to find yourself under less scrupulous masters, right? And you'll find yourself in the kingdom of false lords and false gods. Okay, verse 9. Dear propounded, a man and woman in mortal life were as drooks, being filthy and idle, begging from day to day, and yet had born to them many children, and the children were alike lazy and worthless, being beggars also. Now, in course of time, the man and woman die, and in time after, the children die also, and none of them are yet entered into the first resurrection in heaven, being beggars still, and dwelling around in their old haunts. What of them? The Lord's all spake on this subject, and after that Div decreed, such spirits shall be reported by the Ashars to the Lord, and the Lord shall send a captain with a sufficient army to arrest them and bring them away from the earth and enter them in a colony for such a purpose. This was called Deviant Act, the first. Act, the second, for 30 days, such Druhas shall be clothed and fed. If by this time they manifest no inclination to labor, but are lazy, they shall be removed into another region where food can be obtained only by exertion. Act the third. This law shall apply also to mortals through the Ashars. They shall be inspired to migrate to cold, unproductive regions. Div said, herein hast thou wisely planned, O Jehovah, for all thy places in heaven and earth shall be subdued and made to glorify thee. You still don't want to work where we send you next? Okay, we're going to put you somewhere where it's nice and cold. Let's see how you do there. Let's see if you get to moving to get your body warm. Dark Knight, I just read your comment. Spirits being reported and arrested. Those guardians sound like correction officers over the mortals. Yeah, that's what it sounds like, right? They got to keep us in order down here some way, right? Okay, chapter 8. Dang, we had 53 minutes. Oh, boy. Okay. Chapter 8. The diva met thrice every year in Moru and enacted many acts after the manner herein before related, and the numbers were so great that all the spirits in heaven and mortals on earth were foreplanned from before birth until they became brides and bridegrooms in heaven. Let me read that again. The diva met thrice every year in Moru and enacted many acts after the manner herein before related, and the number was so great that all the spirits in heaven and mortals on earth were foreplanned from before birth until they became brides and bridegrooms in heaven. And heaven and earth became as one country, with one king, who was God, and his word ruled over all. And the Lord's kingdoms prospered, and the kingdoms of sub-gods and goddesses, the like of which glory had not been since the earth was created. And there were rites and ceremonies and recreations and games and pageantry on earth and in heaven, so great that one might write 1,000 books thereon, and yet not have told the 10th part. So after God had reigned 190 years, he descended from his heavenly place and went about in all the Lord's dominions and the sub-gods' dominions in the lower heavens, that he might rejoice before Jehovah in the great good works he had done. And in all the heavenly places there was great rejoicing before God, and the singers made and sang hymns of rejoicing, and trumpeters and harpists proclaimed the glory of Jehovah's presence. So God had the people numbered, that the gods of the Ethereal worlds might send in Dan for the great resurrection, and the number of brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah would be 16,000 million. After that, God directed his fire ship to run close to the earth, that he might survey mortals and their kingdoms. And he visited all the great nations of the earth, to the south and north and east and west. And now his soul cried out with great sorrow. The great peoples of the earth were turning celibates. And the voice of Jehovah came about to him, saying, God, my son, Joab, why sorrowest thou? And God answered, saying, Behold, the earth is not peopled over, the plains and mountains are not subdued, the wilderness is filled with beasts of prey, the Zarathustrians are running into the same line as the Ehims, they kill nothing, and they live for the soul only. And since they have learned the bondage of the lower heavens, they will not marry and beget offspring. And Jehovah spake to God, saying, Call not down Aji nor Ga, my son. Fear not. In 10 years, behold, I will bring the earth into Dan, and thou shalt bring thy harvest into my emancipated worlds. So God sorrowed no more, and on his return to Moru, in the next following meeting of the Diva, he propounded, if a husband and wife have a child born unto them, they both being Zarathustrians, what then? When the members had spoken, Div decreed, they shall have rites and ceremonies, that the Ashars of the order of Zarathustra may be appointed unto it. What the Ashars do in spirit shall Corporians do in corpora. And this is the first supplemental deviant law. As above, so below. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. What they do, what the Ashars do in spirit shall the Corporians do in corpora. And this was the first supplemental deviant law. Through the commandment of the different lords, the Ashars assembled in the house of a Zarathustrian at the time of the birth of a child, and these spirits baptized the child with a rod, sprinkling water on its head after the manner of selecting victims who have been delivered out of hell. And by inspiration, the angels induced mortals to go through the same ceremony, having a priest to perform with a rod which had been dipped in water. Who does that? Looks like they done had something, and they just show us a little bit of what they do, but they don't share it with the people. The Catholic priests sprinkling the babies with water. I'm just saying, they know a lot of this stuff. Half of them don't practice it, but I'm just saying. I'll read verse 11 again. Through the commandment of the different lords, the Ashars assembled in the house of a Zarathustrian at the time of the birth of a child, and these spirits baptized the child with a rod, sprinkling water on its head, after the manner of selecting victims who have been delivered out of hell. And by inspiration, the angels induced mortals to go through the same ceremony, having a priest to perform with a rod which had been dipped in water. Div decreed, a baptized child showeth it hath sprung from Zarathustrians, and it hath inherent in it high possibilities. If it die in infancy, it shall be received not with the children of drooks in heaven, but in such place as will enable the parents after death to visit it with delight. This was the second supplemental deviant law. So it became common on earth for mortals to have their children baptized in infancy, that in case of death they should be taken to a place of delight and not fall into the power of the Druhas, the evil spirits. Div propounded, if a young man who is a Zarathustrian and a young woman who is also a Zarathustrian, and both every way obedient to the Oahspe law and to the Oahspe law, what shall be the rites and ceremonies of marriage for them? On this all the members spake, and after that Div decreed, they shall be married by a rabbah with kin and friends present. The rabbah shall say, Oahspe hath united you forever. Live ye in peace and love on earth, and ye shall dwell together in a heavenly place of delight after death. What Oahspe hath joined, no man can separate forever. And whilst the mortal ceremony is being performed, the Ashars and the spirits akin shall have rites and ceremonies in the same house, and this shall be called the beginning of a new heavenly kingdom. This was the third supplemental deviant law. So while we're having our marriage rite ceremonies going on, especially if you both be believers, whatever you want to call yourself, right? If you believe in the great spirit, Yah, if you both do marriage rites and ceremonies is also while you're performing it, they are also performing it in the unseen realm. Oh, how glorious it would be if our eyes would be open to what was happening while we was actually doing what we were doing in the physical realm. Let me read this again. It's so good. Yes, babe. Okay, take it over there. Unplug it. Okay, babe. Okay. Verse 14. Div propounded, if a young man who is a Zarathustrian and a young woman who is also a Zarathustrian, and both every way obedient to the Oahspe law and to the Oahspe law, what shall be the rites and ceremonies of marriage for them? On this all the members spake, and after that Div decreed, they shall be married by a rabbah with kin and friends present. The rabbah shall say, Oahspe hath united you forever. Live ye in peace and love on earth, and ye shall dwell together in a heavenly place of delight after death. What Oahspe hath joined, no man can separate forever. We read this. What God has joined together, let no man separate. Right? I think that's in Genesis 2 of chapter 3. What Oahspe hath joined, no man can separate forever. And whilst the mortal ceremony is being performed, the Ashars and the spirits akin shall have rites and ceremonies in the same house, and this shall be called the beginning of a new heavenly kingdom. Each family, like we learned before previously in the last book of God's Word, each family is a miniature kingdom here, right? Which teaches us how to operate as we grow, right? And it just kind of filters out throughout everything. Everything starts with the family, right? Then it spirals out to you like your community, and then to your city, and then to the state, and then to the nation, and it just goes out of that. So if we out of control all over the world, we out of control in our homes, right? That's where we solve the problems at home. When they trying to change laws and all this, granted, some of those things will change and adjust, but if we don't change the hearts of the people in our own household, if it don't begin with us, everything else is just going to continue to go to pot. What Oahspe have joined, no man can separate forever. And whilst the mortal ceremony is being performed, the Ashars and the spirits akin shall have rites and ceremonies in the same house, and this shall be called the beginning of a new heavenly kingdom. This was the third supplemental deviant law. Besides these, there were passed 180 and 8 supplemental deviant laws, and they comprehend all things in life and death of mortals, and all things pertaining to the resurrection after death. And so great was the power of the Zarathustrian religion on earth that war ceased, and the tribes and nations dwelt together in peace. The people ceased to build large cities and ceased striving for things of earth. But they learned little save rites and ceremonies and prayers and singing hymns of praise to Ormuzd and his gods and lords and to Zarathustra, the all-pure. Thus ended the dominion of Oahspe's reign in heaven and earth, the like of whose greatness has never been surpassed. So Jehovah bought the regions of Dan and sent 7 ships and delivered God and his harvest of 16,000 million angels into places of delight, the Nirvanian fields of Nikrasawacha in Ethera. And that is the end of chapter 8. Let's read one more chapter. I ain't gonna add in those stories, but I'm gonna just read. It's only 13 verses. Okay. Yes, Boo.
Where are we going after you do your Bible?
Nowhere just yet. Chapter 9. Then God, okay, and after God, it has reference letter D. So let's hop to page 262. D says, of course, this must allude to Oahspe's successor. Okay, so yeah, because Oahspe was just taken, so his successor would be God now in chapter 9. Then God bewailed the state of the earth because man ceased to love anything thereon. His whole mind and heart were set upon heavenly things, and the earth was becoming like a neglected farm grown up with weeds and briars. So Jehovah answered God's prayers, saying, behold, I will bring darkness around about the earth on every side. See to it then, my son, for not only will man desire of the earth, but the angels in thy high heavenly places will forsake them and go down to the earth. Read that again. So Jehovah answered God's prayer, saying, behold, I will bring darkness around about the earth on every side. See to it then, my son, for not only will man desire of the earth, but the angels in high heavenly places will forsake them and go down to the earth. Now let's turn that down a little bit. So it came to pass, Jehovah bore Jah upon the earth, and Jah has reference letter E after it. Page 262. E says Gia and Ga. According to the book of Safa, both Ga and Gia may be correct. For consistency, we have kept the spelling as Ga, Ji apostrophe Ay, in places where Gia and Ga were inconsistent between the two editions. See Ga in the glossary. Okay, let's go to the glossary real quick. Okay, Gia means semi-light, a dark region of atmospheric corporeal substance in Ethera, but not as dark or dense as Ig or nebula. These vast cloud-like regions in Ethera are composed of atmospheric substance that are of the same nature and kind as that which composed the substance of the earth as a whole, but dissolved in an etheric solution. See IgJA inconsistency at the end of the glossary. Okay, end of the glossary. I wonder if they're talking about in the index, in the glossary. Oh, page 790. It's a whole page on it. In the book of Safa, chapter Osiris, verse 56, in the description of plate 63, Simoan Aji is defined as semi-dark. Both editions also define GA as semi-light. Later in verse 57, however, there is a discrepancy between the 1882 and 1891 editions, as noted in the footnotes. The 1882 edition reads, thus ether, the most rarefied place, GA, the second place, less rarefied, Aj, the third place, or nebulous places in the firmament. The 1891 edition reads, Aj, the second place, less rarefied, GA, the third place, which is just the opposite. To further confuse the issue, the latter part of that verse in both editions reads, as out of the ether I make Aj, so out of GA I make corpor. Nowhere else in the text can one find any clear comparison between the two for clarification. Viewing the 3 plates 26, Ja'e, 28, the earth and Aji, and 29, Hareti or nebula, one might conclude that subjectively Aji rather than Ja'e looks more like nebula. Aji and nebula are similarly darkened. Also viewing plate 63, Samoan identical in both editions, one sees that Dang or Dan or light is an open box, and it has like literally a little symbol, like 2 horizontal lines, and a line is like making a box, almost like a H, but not the lines coming out H. So it's a line, small line, small line. So it's a line with, it's like a box. Is an open box. Hawk, darkness, is a box with an X. So you got a square box and an X in it. Aj is similar to Hawk, but the box is open at the bottom. So it's that square box again, but at the bottom there's no line. So it's just like this, U, upside down U, and the X in the box, right? Aj is similar to Hawk, but the box is open at the bottom. While GA contains only a slash inside the box with a 1 slash, not a whole X, just half of the X, contains only a slash in the box, being closer to appearance than Dang. Finally, Book of Cosmology, chapter 8, verse 1 reads, Eth or Ethe stands as 1, Ga as 2, Aj as 3, and corpor as 4. For the above reasons, the editors believe that the 1882 edition is correct, with GA being less dense than Aj. One might speculate that when the editing for the 1891 edition was conducted, perhaps in attempting to reconcile the conflicting statements within verse 57, the editor should have altered the latter part of the verse to coincide with the first rather than the other way around. That would have made the verse clearly consistent with the other references noted above. And that is the end of that footnote. Okay. Back on page 246. Verse 2. So it came to pass, Jehovah brought Ja'e upon the earth, and it was in a state of darkness for 400 years. And the sun shone not, but it was like a red ball of fire, and mortal things were without lights and shadows. And men's minds and hearts took after the nature of the corporal world, losing sight of Ormazd and his heavenly promises, and they bethought them of the desires of earth and the pleasures of the flesh life. Now, during GA, there fell perpetual atmospheric substance on the earth, and it was of the nature and kind of substance which the earth is made, but atmospheric, and this is that which is called Ga. And the plateau of Harati and Zeredho were driven down to the earth, and near the earth, and the belt of Meteoris was moved nearer by thousands of miles, and meteoric stones fell in many places upon the earth, like a rain shower, but burning hot and with suffocating smell. And the affairs of mortals were changed. They built new cities and became great hunters, applying the wisdom of their forefathers to the matters of the earth. And the heavenly places of delight were broken up and descended to the earth, and the angels were cast upon the earth, turning away from faith in Oahspe, seeking joys in the affairs of earth. Seemed like the whole cycle's just starting over after everything became perfect and everybody was only looking to the spiritual things. He said, okay, in about 10 years, I'm going to go ahead and harvest everybody, and then we're going to go ahead and fix this. And we're going to start this process again. That's what it looked like. And And the heavenly places of delight were broken up and descended to the earth, and the angels were cast upon the earth, turning away from faith in Oahspe, seeking joy in the affairs of earth. And God and his lords were powerless unto righteous works, either with mortals or angels. But man and woman became prolific, and they grew large and full of resolution and power. The voice of Jehovah spake to God, saying, Maintain thou thy kingdom, and thy gods and lords under thee shall also maintain their kingdoms. Nor suffer thou my people to be discouraged with my works. Because I have sent darkness upon the earth to benefit mortals in mortality, so have I also given my heavenly hosts lessons in my worlds. Nor shall they call this a judgment upon them, nor say I do things in anger, nor as punishment, nor for the benefit of one to the injury of others. Because thou wert guided by my voice and my commandments in bestowing the deviant law, behold the strength and wisdom of thy pupils. For inasmuch as they learn to master the elements I created in atmosphere, so they will become triumphant in my Ethereal worlds. God perceived, and he and his lords and sub-gods fortified their kingdoms on all hands, and provided assistance to their colleges, factories, hospitals, and places of education in order to maintain the angels who had sought resurrection. Nevertheless, it came to pass, many angels believed a new order of light was coming on the earth, wherein the earth would become the all-highest abode for angels and gods. Others, having lived 200 or 300 years in atmosphere, and never having been in Ethera, began to disbelieve in the higher heavens, and finally to disbelieve in Jehovah also. And then 200 years later, God and his lords lost influence and power with both angels and mortals, and the latter took to war, and the angels who had ministered unto them became wanderers and adventurers without organization, and cared neither for truth nor wisdom, but flattered mortals for their own glory. And the kings and queens of the earth built temples for their familiar spirits, who assumed the ancient names of gods and lords. Now, when the next ark of Dan was near at hand, God enumerated his upraised hosts, and there were prepared as brides and bridegrooms. And the kings and queens of the earth built temples for their familiar spirits, who assumed the ancient names of gods and lords. Now, when the next ark of Dan was near at hand, God enumerated his upraised hosts, and there were prepared as brides and bridegrooms for Jehovah's higher heavens 12,000 million. And this is the last verse, and then we're going to pause. And because it was less than the number of his predecessor, he cried out unto Jehovah, bewailing his weakness. And Jehovah answered him, saying, Bewail not, my son, thou hast done a great work. Neither ask thou that thou I'm gonna get this right. Hold on. Neither ask thou that thou mayest remain another Dan, for the next will not be so fair a harvest. So God grieved no more, but bestowed his kingdom on his successor, and his lords did likewise, and so did his sub-gods and all other persons having proteges. And God called together the brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, and the latter sent down from Etheria 5 great ships of fire, and delivered God and his hosts into the emancipated worlds. And we will end at the end of chapter 9. Tomorrow we're going to pick up chapter 10. And this is, what is this, 18 chapters? 17, 18. Yeah, 18. So we'll be done with this. We'll probably be done with this in like 2 or 3 days, y'all. Yeah, we'll probably be done in like 2 days. And then we'll start the book of Spencer Armage, daughter of Jehovah, which is a top part. And after that, we read the first book of God. All right, y'all. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed the reading for today. I really did. I could really read another chapter if I wanted to, but we got to get going. The next chapter is 25 verses, but we're gonna hold off and wait because I know y'all got to get to work if y'all work for somebody else. Me, I can take my time, but I want to respect your time. All right. But anyway, y'all, it is Wednesday, June the 29th, 2022, day 145 of year 4, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1163. We read pages 243 to 246 in the book of Divinity found in Oahspe. All right, y'all. And that's it. Yep, this was the last Sabbath we just had for this moon cycle. So coming up, we'll be watching. We will be watching, and yeah, we'll be watching, and it's gonna. I'm not sure if this is the moon cycle where it skips a day and goes to Thursday, or if it's gonna go right to Wednesday. I gotta look ahead and just double check, but we'll see. We gotta watch because one time it tripped me up. Right, and I think matter of fact, during that time a couple months ago, a lot of people got tripped up because everybody was like, "Oh, it's supposed to show on this day." Then I started seeing posts. I was like, "Oh, I wasn't the only one." Right? I was like, "It didn't show. I'm like, this is interesting, So I'm still learning, trying to pinpoint the cycles when they actually, like. The transition days. I'm still trying to get that down. I know it's a short transition, and then there's a longer transition of the moon when it shows its light. So, it does like what can I say? I don't know if rotate is the right word, but the transition of the moon days when it's completely black is from like 1 to like 3 days of being black before it shows. So I'm still trying to figure out that pattern on how it does that, right? But this was one of those times where the transition was longer, and it actually showed that next night, which kind of threw a lot of us off. So, but we still learning. Blessed be the most holy. So thank y'all for hanging out. I love y'all. Linda, shalom, sis. May y'all continue to bless you in all that you do, and may you apply truth to your life so you can walk in it. That is it, y'all. I love y'all. Now, we'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.